They said the boy couldn't be soothed. He bit, he screamed, he broke every toy and every heart that tried to love him. 6 nannies had come and gone, some left in tears, others swearing never to care for children again. But one quiet morning, a stranger walked into the glass mansion on Silver Lake Hill, and the child who never smiled reached out his arms and smiled. It had started like any other morning in the house on Silver Lake Hill, quiet, polished, and waiting to break. Maya Green pressed her cleaning cart against the elevator wall, eyes half closed from another sleepless night. The penthouse above wasn't just big, it was echo big, the kind of place where every footstep sounded like a secret you weren't supposed to hear. Top floor, she whispered to herself, checking her ID badge. Don't talk. Don't look too long. Just clean. When the doors opened, she stepped into a living room made of glass and ice, white couches, gold frames, a view of the city that seemed too expensive to breathe near. And then she heard him. A small boy's cry. Sharp, wild, desperate. Before she could even move, a voice cracked through the air. "Keep him away from the staff." The woman shouting was tall, draped in silk, her hair the color of old money. Eleanor Royce. Everyone in town knew her name. Real estate empire, charity galas, magazine covers. Maya froze. A second later, the boy, little Theo, came barreling down the hall, red-faced and trembling, his tiny fists ready for war. Behind him, a young nanny chased, her face wet with tears. "He threw his breakfast at me. Again," the nanny cried. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Royce, I can't do this anymore." She dropped her apron, grabbed her bag, and ran for the elevator. Eleanor pinched the bridge of her nose. Another one. God, help me. The door slammed behind the nanny, and for a moment, only Theo's ragged breathing filled the room. Maya's eyes softened. "Hey there, little man." Before anyone could stop her, she crouched down, not too close, just enough for him to see her eyes. Theo froze. His fists stopped moving. Eleanor's voice cut through the air. "Don't touch him." But it was too late. Theo toddled forward, uncertain at first, then pressed his cheek against Maya's sleeve. And just like that, silence. The boy's sobs melted into tiny hiccups. His eyes fluttered. Then he did something no one had seen in months. He smiled. Eleanor stared, speechless. So did the house manager, the cook, even the driver by the door. "What did you... How?" Eleanor stammered. Maya shrugged. "Sometimes they just need someone who's not afraid of their mess." Theo's small hand clung tighter to her arm, and for the first time that morning, the glass mansion didn't feel so cold. "Who is she?" Eleanor hissed to her daughter, Caroline, as they watched Maya rock Theo to sleep. "The cleaner," Caroline muttered, her tone dripping with disbelief. "Night shift. I told them not to bring staff in during the day." "She doesn't belong here," Eleanor whispered. "Look at her uniform. What will the neighbors say if they find out that woman is holding my grandson?" Maya pretended not to hear. She had heard worse. In job interviews, in whispered grocery lines, in the silence that follows when someone decides you don't quite fit the picture. Still, she stayed calm. Her mother used to say, "Don't fight noise with noise. Let truth be the loudest thing in the room." When she looked up, she caught the eye of Daniel Royce, Theo's father. He'd been standing in the doorway, watching quietly. The exhaustion in his face almost as heavy as his grief. Since his wife had passed, Daniel had tried everything. Doctors, therapists, behavioral specialists. But nothing worked. Theo had screamed his way through all of them. Until now. "Miss Green," Daniel said gently. "What did you do?" Maya smiled faintly. "Nothing special. Kids know when someone's not pretending." Eleanor frowned. "Daniel, surely you're not taking advice from—" But he interrupted her. "Mother, please." He turned back to Maya. "Would you stay with him for a while? Just until he wakes?" Eleanor gasped. "You can't be serious." But Daniel ignored her. Maya nodded. "1 hour. That's all I need to show you something." No one breathed. She sat down on the carpet beside Theo, tracing tiny circles on his back while humming softly. The boy's eyes closed, his breathing steady. And as sunlight slipped through the glass windows, the whole penthouse seemed to exhale. Eleanor crossed her arms. Caroline glared. Daniel just watched, something shifting quietly behind his tired eyes. The city outside roared with traffic and sirens, but inside, for the first time in a long time, there was peace. Maya's voice was a whisper. See? He just needed someone to listen before speaking. But peace in houses like that never lasts. Because every calm moment threatens the people who built their lives on control. And that smile, that simple, impossible smile, was about to start a storm that would tear the Royce family's perfect world apart. The morning after the miracle, the Royce mansion hummed like a beehive. Staff whispered. Phones buzzed. Someone swore they'd seen Eleanor pacing the balcony at dawn, muttering about damage control. All because of one thing: the cleaner who calmed the boy. It had started like any other day. Maya was back in her pale blue uniform, pushing her cleaning cart down the hall. But every step felt heavier. She could feel eyes following her. The cook peeking from the kitchen, the housekeeper pretending to dust, even the butler's polite smile stretched too thin. She'd broken an unspoken rule. She'd been seen, and in houses like that, being seen was dangerous. "Good morning," Daniel said as she entered the living room. He looked lighter somehow, like sleep had finally found him. "Theo's been asking for you." First thing he said when he woke up was, "Maya." Her heart softened. That's sweet. Eleanor, standing near the window, didn't think so. "It's strange, that's what it is," she snapped. The boy doesn't even speak to his own grandmother, but suddenly he's singing lullabies to the cleaning lady? Daniel sighed. "Mother, no," she cut him off sharply. "This is not about kindness, Daniel. It's about standards. That woman is staff, not family." Maya kept her tone steady. "Ma'am, I don't mean any disrespect. I'm just trying to help." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Help? You're overstepping. Don't confuse luck with skill." Theo toddled into the room just then, his toy truck dragging behind him. He spotted Maya and ran straight into her legs, wrapping his arms around her knees. "See?" Daniel whispered. "He trusts her." Eleanor's lips tightened into a thin, elegant line. Trust in that house was more dangerous than hate. By lunchtime, Eleanor and Caroline had made their decision. "She's manipulative," Caroline said, slicing her avocado toast like it had wronged her. "You saw how she looked at Dad. She's planning something." Eleanor nodded. "I'll speak to Dr. Harding. If anyone can confirm my suspicions about that woman's methods, it's him." The mother and daughter shared a look, the kind that only people who've never been told no can share. That evening, Maya sat on the nursery floor watching Theo stack wooden blocks. He giggled. She smiled. "You're getting good at that." He nodded proudly. Then, softly, he said, "Mama used to sing." Maya froze. It was the first full sentence he'd ever spoken to anyone since his mother's death. Daniel, who had been standing by the door, covered his mouth with his hand, his eyes shining. "Thank you," he whispered, but not everyone felt grateful. Later that night, as Maya left the nursery, she overheard whispers near the dining room. "She's dangerous. Daniel," Eleanor was saying. "You don't know people like her. They attach themselves to tragedy and feed off sympathy." Maya paused, hidden behind the doorway. "She's not like that," Daniel replied. "She's helping Theo heal," Caroline's voice joined in. "Or maybe she's trying to replace Mom. Think about it. The timing, the attention, the miracle. It's manipulative." Eleanor added, "She'll ruin this family, Daniel. You'll see." Maya stood there, her hands trembling. She wanted to walk in to defend herself. But she didn't, because she'd learned long ago. The best defense isn't words. It's patience. The next morning, Eleanor smiled sweetly when Maya entered the kitchen. "Coffee?" she asked, her voice honeyed and sharp. Maya nodded cautiously. "Thank you," Eleanor poured it herself. "You must understand, dear, our world is delicate. Appearances matter. My grandson can't grow up attached to someone who doesn't belong in his circle." Maya took a slow sip of her coffee. "Children don't care about circles, ma'am. Only warmth." The older woman's smile faltered. "Warmth doesn't pay for private schools." Maya met her gaze calmly. "No, but love makes a child brave enough to walk into one." That was the moment Eleanor decided. Maya had to go. That evening, when Daniel returned from the office, Eleanor was waiting. "We had a visitor today," she said. "Dr. Harding, a specialist in child behavior. He agrees. Theo's becoming too attached to the cleaner. It's unhealthy." Daniel frowned. "Unhealthy?" "He's finally eating, sleeping, laughing." Eleanor crossed her arms. "Obsession can look like healing." Maya, who had just entered the room, stopped in her tracks. "Mr. Royce," she said softly, "may I suggest something?" Daniel turned toward her. "Go on. Give me 1 week," she said. "If Theo doesn't keep improving, I'll leave quietly. No questions. But if he does, maybe it's not the child that's broken." Eleanor gasped. "How dare you?" But Daniel raised a hand. "Deal." The air froze. Maya bowed her head. "Thank you, sir." Eleanor's expression hardened into polished rage. That night, as the mansion's lights dimmed and the city glowed outside, Maya knew she'd just drawn a line across the marble floor. One side love, the other pride. And in the days ahead, both sides would go to war. It started small. Little traps, whispered rumors. Someone forgot to tell her Theo's allergy list. Someone misplaced her lunch. A scarf disappeared, then reappeared in the wrong drawer. Maya smiled through it all, wiping counters, humming songs, refusing to break. But she was no fool. Every night after Theo was asleep, she took notes, names, dates, every cruel word spoken behind polite smiles. Because deep down, Maya knew something bigger was brewing. These people weren't just protecting reputation, they were hiding something. And if she was right, the truth would burn brighter than any chandelier in that glass mansion. By the third day, the mansion no longer whispered. It plotted. Behind every polite smile, Maya could feel the hum of schemes tightening around her like invisible strings. Still, she kept her calm. Theo laughed more each day, chasing sunlight across the marble floors, his giggles echoing through halls once filled with silence. And every time Daniel saw it, he couldn't help smiling too. That fragile, hopeful smile of a man remembering what joy looked like. But joy, in that house, made enemies. That evening, Eleanor called for a family meeting. She said it like she was hosting a royal court. The staff were dismissed. Lights dimmed. Only family and Maya remained. Daniel frowned. "Is this really necessary?" Eleanor's tone was velvet wrapped around steel. "It's essential. There are concerns about boundaries." Caroline stood beside her holding a sleek silver folder. "We've spoken to professionals, experts. They agree Theo's attachment is unnatural." "Unnatural?" Daniel repeated, disbelief in his voice. "He's a child learning to trust again." Eleanor raised her chin. "Or being manipulated." Maya's stomach tightened, but her face stayed serene. "Mrs. Royce," she said softly, "children can't be forced to love. They know when someone's heart is real." Eleanor's eyes flashed. "And what would you know about real love, Miss Green?" "You clean floors for people you'll never be." Caroline smirked. "I've seen your type before. Sweet smiles, big dreams. You think if you play nice long enough, you'll get invited to the table." Maya's voice was calm. "I don't need a seat. I'm here for the child." The silence after that could have cracked glass. Later that night, Maya sat awake in the small service quarters behind the kitchen. She wrote quietly in her worn notebook. Every conversation, every cruel comment, every small mistake that had put Theo in danger. Her mother's words rang in her head. If they build a wall to keep you out, build a bridge so strong they have to cross it. She wasn't there to survive anymore. She was there to expose something much darker than arrogance. The next morning, Caroline struck. Maya came downstairs to find Eleanor pale and shaking, holding a tiny white envelope. Inside was a fine powder. Next to it, a note. Check her locker. Caroline gasped dramatically. It's drugs, Mother. I told you she's dangerous. Eleanor's voice trembled. Call security. Maya stood frozen. That's not mine. Oh, please, Caroline sneered. You think we don't know your kind? You worm your way in, pretend to be a saint? That's enough. Daniel's voice boomed from the staircase. Everyone turned. He descended slowly, his expression unreadable. No one's calling anyone yet, Caroline sputtered. Dad, it was in her locker, which you had the key to, Maya said quietly. The room went still. Daniel's gaze flicked between them. Maya, do you have anything to hide? No, sir. Then let's check the footage. What footage? Eleanor blurted out, the security cameras, he said, his tone suddenly sharp. You forget I own this house. Caroline's face drained of color. Dad, you can't, already can, he said, pulling out his phone. Minutes later, the truth glowed on the screen. Caroline slipping into the service corridor late at night, glancing over her shoulder, placing something in Maya's locker, Eleanor gasped. Caroline, her daughter stammered. It's not, she's dangerous, Mother. Maya stood still, her hands clasped gently in front of her. I told you, she said softly. Children see the truth faster than adults do. Eleanor's voice broke. Caroline, what have you done? But Caroline just turned and stormed away, her heels cracking the marble like gunshots. Later, Daniel found Maya on the back patio, watching the city lights. I'm sorry, he said. They've crossed every line. Maya shook her head. People like that don't cross lines, Mr. Royce. They draw them around their fear. He sighed. You don't have to stay. You've done enough, Maya smiled faintly. I made a promise to Theo, and I keep my promises. He looked at her for a long moment. You're not like anyone I've ever met. She turned toward him, calm but firm. That's because you've spent your life around people who mistake power for goodness. For the first time, he had no answer. The next day brought new tension. Dr. Harding, the so-called expert Eleanor trusted, arrived, briefcase in hand, smile sharp as glass. He spoke gently but with purpose, circling Maya like a scientist observing a specimen. I've heard quite the story about you, he said. A cleaner turned miracle worker. I just care, she replied. He chuckled. Care is easy to fake. Not to a child, she said. When Theo toddled in and went straight to Maya's arms, Dr. Harding's practiced smile faltered. Still, he continued with his assessment, making notes, whispering with Eleanor in corners. By afternoon, Maya could tell they were building a narrative, one that painted her as unstable, dangerous, manipulative, so she called someone she trusted. Professor Allen, she said over the phone that night. It's Maya Green. You once told me truth is quiet, but evidence speaks. I think it's time we let it speak. The following week, Eleanor invited everyone to a final evaluation meeting, her last attempt to regain control. Maya arrived early, her expression serene, a small folder tucked under her arm. Eleanor, Caroline, Dr. Harding, and Daniel all sat around the glass table. Maya, Eleanor began with false sweetness, we're here to discuss your conduct. Actually, Maya interrupted softly, we're here to discuss the truth. Caroline scoffed. What truth? You have nothing. Maya placed her folder on the table. Oh, I have plenty. She pressed play on her phone. A recording filled the room. Eleanor and Caroline whispering late one night. Plotting, framing, bribing Dr. Harding to write a false report. Daniel's jaw clenched. You paid him. Eleanor paled. Daniel, listen. No, Maya said, her voice calm but firm. Now, you listen. She slid the rest of the documents across the table. Proof of their manipulation, their deceit, their plans to take full control of Theo's trust fund. Caroline's voice cracked. You spied on us? No, Maya said. I just paid attention. And at that moment, the walls of the Royce mansion, built on money, lies, and control, began to crack. The silence after Maya's words hung heavy in the marble room. It was the kind of silence that only comes when power realizes it's losing its grip. Eleanor's voice finally broke through, trembling but still proud. You don't know what you're doing. You think you can walk in here and tell the truth? Maya said calmly. Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what I'm doing. Caroline shoved her chair back. This is blackmail. Maya shook her head. No, it's daylight. Daniel sat motionless, the storm in his eyes quiet but fierce. He opened one of the printed emails Maya had placed in front of him. It was a thread between Eleanor and Dr. Harding, discussing adjusting Theo's evaluation report, suggesting that the child's current caretaker may be creating an unhealthy dependency. The price for Harding's compliance was clear, a large donation to his private practice. Daniel's hand shook. You tried to buy a diagnosis? Eleanor's composure cracked. It was for Theo's future. You have no idea what's at stake. I do, Daniel said coldly. My son's happiness, Dr. Harding shifted uncomfortably. This is all a misunderstanding. Maya turned to him. Then you won't mind me forwarding these recordings to the Board of Child Wellness, will you? His face drained of color. Caroline whispered, She's bluffing. Maya smiled. Try me. Eleanor tried to recover her poise, her voice trembling but sharp. You're nothing but a cleaner. You'll never be one of us. Maya's tone softened, but her eyes glowed with quiet fire. You're right. I never wanted to be one of you. But I'll tell you something. Mrs. Royce, children don't care about us and them. They just care about who loves them without asking for anything back. Theo peeked from the hallway, clutching his toy truck. Maya! The sound of his voice, small, trusting, hit Daniel like a punch to the heart. He looked at Eleanor, then Caroline, and said, This ends today. 2 hours later, the mansion was still buzzing with the aftermath. Dr. Harding had left in shame, his career quietly collapsing before he even reached the driveway. Caroline had stormed upstairs, slamming doors and swearing the world would hear about this. Eleanor sat by the window, staring out at the city she'd once ruled. Her reflection trembled in the glass. A woman made of diamonds and dust. Maya entered quietly, a cup of tea in hand. You should drink something. Eleanor didn't turn around. Do you enjoy humiliating me? No, ma'am, Maya said softly. I enjoy healing what's broken. Even if it hurts first, Eleanor's voice cracked. You've destroyed everything I built. Maya's gaze softened. No, you destroyed it yourself, ma'am. I just opened the curtains. For a moment, Eleanor's mask slipped. The tears came, quick, fragile, human. Then she straightened again, pride snapping back into place. You'll regret this, Maya nodded. Maybe, but at least I'll regret it for the right reasons. She turned to leave. Eleanor's whisper followed her down the hall. You think you've won? No, Maya said quietly without looking back. I think the truth has. That night, Daniel knocked on the door of the small staff quarters. Maya opened it, surprised to see him holding 2 mugs of coffee. Can I come in? He asked. She nodded. He sat down, looking around the tiny room. Plain walls, a small cot, one open notebook filled with neat handwriting. You documented everything, he said softly. Every word, Maya nodded. Not to hurt you. to protect your son. And you. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. I feel like I've been blind for years. My mother, my sister, they've controlled everything. Even how I saw my own child. He paused, his voice thick. You opened my eyes, Maya, and you did it with grace. How can I ever thank you? She smiled faintly. By giving Theo what he needs. Love, not rules. He nodded. You have my word. For a moment, neither spoke. The city lights flickered through the small window, painting stripes of gold across the floor. Then Daniel said quietly, You know, the media will get hold of this. The doctor, the recordings. It's going to be ugly. I'm not afraid of ugly, Maya said. I've cleaned enough of it to know what beauty really is. The next morning, the world began to burn. A leaked audio file, Eleanor's conversation with Dr. Harding, spread through social media like wildfire. Hashtags, headlines, outrage, Royce family under fire. Wealth and whispers. Reporters camped outside the mansion gates. The Royces, once the picture of perfection, were now the portrait of hypocrisy. Maya stayed out of sight caring for Theo, shielding him from the chaos. He didn't understand the noise outside, only that his world inside finally felt calm. Eleanor refused interviews, Caroline went silent online, and Daniel resigned from 2 company boards. But in the middle of the storm, something rare happened. Peace. Theo napped quietly in Maya's lap, his tiny fingers tangled in her sleeve. When Daniel came to check on them, he just stood in the doorway, watching, seeing not a scandal, not a class divide, but a small, honest moment that mattered more than anything else. That evening, as the sun fell over the city, Maya stood on the balcony with Theo in her arms. The wind lifted her hair. The skyline shimmered in gold. Daniel joined her. I've decided something, he said. She turned slightly. Oh, I want you to stay. Not as staff, as part of this family. Maya looked down at Theo, then back at him. Are you sure the world's ready for that? He smiled. I don't care if it isn't. I'm done living for the world. She laughed softly. Then maybe the world will finally learn something from you. Inside, Eleanor watched from the shadows of the staircase. Her son, her grandson, and the woman she once called the help. Her heart clenched, torn between pride and regret. For the first time in her life, Eleanor Royce felt small, and strangely, free, because even she couldn't deny it anymore. The cleaner had done what no one else could. She'd cleaned the dirt. Money couldn't wash away. 6 months passed. The Royce mansion no longer gleamed with the brittle shine of old money. It breathed. The walls that once held whispers now carried laughter, and the marble floors felt softer beneath the echo of small footsteps. Theo was running again. Not from fear this time, but chasing bubbles across the garden while sunlight danced in his curls. His giggles filled the air like music, and Maya watched from the porch, her eyes warm with quiet pride. It had started with chaos. News cameras, reporters, endless headlines. But storms don't last forever. They just wash the truth clean. Eleanor and Caroline disappeared from society's center stage. Their charity seats, their glossy magazine photos, all gone. The city had a new fascination now. Not the fall of privilege, but the rise of something real. Because the story of the cleaner who saved the child had spread far beyond Silver Lake Hill. Maya didn't chase fame. She turned it into purpose. She started a foundation for single parents and working-class caregivers, giving them training, protection, and, most of all, voice. Daniel helped her build it, funding the first community center downtown. You do the heart work, he'd said. I'll handle the paperwork. And together, they did. That morning, as the boardroom filled with sunlight, Maya finished her speech to a crowd of reporters and smiling families. This, she said, pointing to the photo of Theo beaming on the projector screen, is what happens when love and patience are given a chance. Not money, not titles, just care. The audience clapped, not polite applause, but real, thundering appreciation. Daniel watched from the back row, hands in his pockets, pride in his eyes. When she stepped off the stage, he met her with a grin. "You know, you've become the most powerful woman I know," Maya laughed. "I thought you didn't like powerful people," he shrugged. "I like them when they use it right," she smiled. "Then let's keep using it right." That afternoon, they returned home. Theo was on the floor, surrounded by crayons and construction paper. When he saw them, he jumped up, waving his newest masterpiece, a bright drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands under a sun. "That's me, Daddy, and Maya," he announced proudly. Daniel knelt to his level, eyes glistening. "It's perfect, buddy," Theo nodded. "We're a family now." The room went quiet, not awkward, just full of emotion too big for words. Maya crouched beside him. "That's a beautiful word, Theo. Family." He beamed. "Yeah, we make pancakes and sing songs." Daniel chuckled. "That's our kind of family, huh?" Theo nodded fiercely, then went back to coloring. Later, when the boy was asleep, Maya stepped outside to the balcony. The night was soft, full of city lights and faraway thunder, the good kind, the kind that promised rain but not destruction. Daniel joined her with 2 mugs of tea. "I've been thinking," he said, "about everything that's happened." She smiled faintly. "You mean the scandal that turned your family upside down?" He laughed quietly, and somehow made it right side up again. They stood in silence for a while, the wind brushing between them. Then Daniel said softly, "You know, my mother's been writing me letters." Maya raised a brow. "Letters?" "Yeah, she's living in Vermont now. Says she's learning what peace feels like without control." Maya nodded. "Maybe she's finally learning to listen." He glanced at her. "She asked about you, actually." "Oh?" "She wanted me to thank you. Said she's sorry. That she never realized what courage looks like when it comes dressed in a uniform." Maya's eyes softened. "I don't need her apology. I just hope she treats the next person with kindness." Daniel smiled. "You always find the light in people, don't you?" She sipped her tea. "Not always. I just refuse to stop looking." A gentle breeze stirred the curtains behind them. The house smelled like warm bread and crayons. Somewhere inside, Theo murmured in his sleep. Daniel spoke again, quietly. "You changed everything, Maya." She turned to him, her voice low but certain. "No, Daniel. We did." He looked out over the glowing skyline, his voice almost a whisper. "You know, when you first came here, I thought you were just here to clean my house." Maya smiled, her eyes glinting. "Turns out I was here to clean your heart instead." He laughed softly. "Guess I needed it." Months later, their foundation opened its second branch, a bright brick building with wide windows and murals painted by local children. The sign above the entrance read, "The Light Project." Every child deserves a safe home. On opening day, Maya stood at the front with Theo on her hip and Daniel beside her. Cameras flashed, children cheered, and volunteers passed out lemonade in paper cups. When someone asked Maya how she'd done it all, she simply said, "I didn't fight the storm. I learned to stand in it." As the sun began to set, she took Theo's hand and led him to the garden outside. The boy crouched to examine a butterfly resting on a flower. "Look, Maya," he whispered. "It's not scared anymore," she smiled. "Neither are we." He nodded, serious and proud, then ran off toward the other kids. Daniel walked up beside her, sliding his hands into his pockets. "You know, he's stronger than any of us ever were." "That's because he grew up in truth," she said. They stood there, watching the boy who had once been broken now laughing in the open light. And for the first time in a long, long time, the world felt fair again. Sometimes, the greatest revolutions don't start in boardrooms or courtrooms. They start in quiet hearts, in the hands of someone who refuses to stop caring. Maya Green walked into a house built on pride and left it filled with love. And if you ever doubt what one person can do, remember her story. Because true power isn't owning the world, it's knowing how to heal it.